Okay. Since it's 6 p.m., we are going to start the student concerns and general announcements. Everyone with a student concern can they raise their hands. I'll wait for 15 more seconds, I guess. Never mind. Okay, so I don't have any student contents on the form as well, so I'll not be sharing anything to the Ledge channel. And just gonna unmute everyone because we are not that many today. So just don't speak if you don't need to.
Just have us all on mute, and then we can unmute ourselves if we want to talk.
Just put yourself on mute, and then
It's aspirational.
Okay, I'm letting
yourselves. Can we unmute?
Yeah, so that's working now. Check if you guys can unmute yourselves. Okay, you cannot. Partners to unmute themselves. Does that work?
Yeah, now it works.
Yeah, it works.
Mute yourselves now. Okay. Again, I'm just going to do a call again. So if there are any student concerns, raise your hands in the group chat, in the participants chat. Seeing none, we'll move to roll call. Okay. I don't have the list with me, David.
There is a student concern. Someone raise their hand.
Okay, Gabriel. Okay, I'll just unmute her. Yeah, you can go ahead with your student concern.
Hi. My name is Gabriella Grant. My student concern is with housing. I'm a Courtyards resident. I'm currently here and I have been granted emergency housing, but I've been given like very contradictory information in regards to like how to move forward with the situation I'm in, because I was told by Christopher Mason I could stay here until April 30th, but there's a stay-at-home order and I'm not really sure where that leaves like me in terms of emergency housing. And then I also know my roommate, she's like in a situation where she was denied emergency housing, but they're not really being explicit about what happens if she doesn't leave. Like if she continues to pay her like rent, quote unquote, daily prorate, what will happen to her? Like it's really unclear. And also the daily prorate is something that's not very clear to me, because there's like, if you calculate it, it's like $30 extra for you to be here for the whole month, which makes no sense to me because there's reduced services and there is no maintenance unless it's like on a serious emergency basis. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you for your student concern. Next, Naja. Yeah, you can go ahead and you're unmuted. Naja.
Naja, is your audio working?
Okay. Naja, you're unmuted. Okay, seeing there are technical difficulties, we'll just, I guess you can fill out the form for student concerns and I'll bring it back to the legislature channel. And David, can you pull up the form on screen as well so that she can see the link?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Zoom is in the way. There we hold on.
Hello.
Hi, Nasha.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can speak. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. I'm also a Courtyards resident. That is where my concern is in terms of how housing has been handled with both Courtyards and South Campus Commons. I have been extremely disappointed with how they've handled this issue, especially with the sweeping generalizations as if people could just pack up and leave. They've continuously sent out a lot of emails that have next to no information on how they're handling this issue. We still have not gotten a definitive answer as to why we do have to move out, especially since the notice came so late and so abruptly the week after, I guess that Friday that we had learned that the semester would continue to be online for the rest of the semester. We got an email that we would have between the 23rd and the 5th to move everything out. And I mean, move out completely. I am a person who has already released. I pay rent, and I was not expecting that I would have to leave, especially pack up everything after I've not only stocked up on groceries, but stocked up on ways so that I could stay at home and practice social distancing. I do have family that live in the state. However, I do have an elderly grandmother and an elderly mother. And especially after seeing the new reports of people who have been on campus who tested positive for COVID-19, to just simply tell everyone to pack up and leave and go to these places where you could potentially be transferring. Who knows what you have if you're asymptomatic? I think it's just grossly irresponsible for how they've handled this, especially with the new notice that we got on Monday that people will be charged a daily rate. Mind you, this email went out at 5:30 p.m. And Governor Hogan made the announcement for the stay-at-home order around like 11:30 a.m. That stay-at-home order would go into place at 8 p.m. There's many people who didn't really have the funds to think about a daily subscription service in order to stay in a living situation. And we still have not gotten a reasoning for that, as opposed to maybe a different alternative. They recently put out a fact page that also has next to no information or any reasoning as to why we've been treated this way. So I definitely would like SGA to look into this issue to make sure that our students are being taken care of and that we are getting them, our rights recognized. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your student concern. So we'll move into roll call now. Mr. Parliamentarian, you can help.
Yeah, absolutely. So this time to spice things up a little bit, I'll be calling out first names, alphabetical order, just because it's what's shown in Slack. Okay. Here we go.
Everyone is unmuted.
Everyone, please mute yourself. Oh, never mind. All right, Adam, agriculture.
Yeah.
I'm here.
People were sending money to universities.
Are you noting this down?
Okay, I just muted everyone. Let's do this. We'll call your name and you'll raise your hand on this participant Slack.
Those were working against each other, actually. So there's a lot more sources out there. Big report.
Somebody's TV back.
Okay, now everyone's muted. The only person who has access to unmute themselves is parliamentarian. People are creating issues now. Anyways, yeah. So parliamentarian will call off the name of your representative position and your name, and then you raise your hand on the participants Slack, and I'll keep the count.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Adam, agriculture is here. We know that. Yep, great. Alawi, off-campus outlying. Alex, off-campus outlying. Alicia, CMNS. Thank you. Alyssa, BSOS. Ashley, engineering. Atara, off-campus neighboring. Cole, first year. David Pontius, off-campus neighboring. David CMNS is absent.
Yeah.
Duong, Architecture International. Naya Ellicott. Philemon Transfer. Quentin Northhill. Sarah Arhue. Sarah Kovac, sorry. Sarah Ronayne Bistos. Sasha off-campus outline? Yeah, okay. Sherm Leonardtown. Shoham CMNS. Sophie Greek Residential. Thanks. Tori Bissos. Then Zoe Southhill. That's all.
Okay, so that's 20, 30, 31. Okay, with 31 legislators, seeing the quorum is met, I'll call the 23rd meeting of the 2019-2020 session to order. Are there any objections to the minutes? I'm allowing everyone to unmute themselves again. So if there are any objections to the minutes, let me. Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Speakers time. So there are a few things that we are gonna do this GBM. If there are any points, they will be guided to Mr. Parliamentarian over Slack. And once that happens, he's the only one with the unmute access to him. So he'll be telling me about the point. And seeing the last time around when the points were made, it was hard for the speaker to go from Slack and the meeting, go between Slack and the meeting. So this will make sure that the parliamentarian makes the points when they are actually meant to be made. And then we have an update from the parliamentarian. Mr. Parliamentarian.
Yes, thank you. Appreciated. Aside from today's standard operating procedure, there's a couple things that I think are necessary to add. So my primary job here will be to be checking Slack. I will do so routinely. I'll also try as hard as possible to maintain the timer. I want to thank you all for the debate in the last two sessions, really. After 13 hours of debate, we did make progress on an issue that's critical to campus. However, we did so in a way that was not very conducive to the way that procedure should be going. So I'll take this opportunity to apologize because I think that I have not completely explained things as well as possible throughout this 2 semesters now that we've been doing this. But I think that we really have to start actually adhering to what points mean, and also in terms of minor concern with student concerns that we'll get to in just a second. Points are not debate. Points should never be debate. Debate should be debate, and you should not be using points in any way to try to influence the course of what the actual debate is. You should not be interrupting with them. You should be trying to use them to either seek information for a point of information, to provide information with a point of clarification, to provide order. If you believe that something is out of order, that's a point of order. Procedure, if you have a question on procedure, direct that to me. That's a point of parliamentary procedure. And a point of personal privilege, perhaps most importantly, is only to be used in terms of on a digital call. Could you please speak up? Could you please pipe down? Could you please mute yourself? Please do not use points in order to try and express opinions. I'll be sharper on these in the future, just because otherwise we are going to continue having debates that are going to last an extraordinary amount of time for very little purpose. This is not at all meant to single anybody out. I just think that we really need to start debating honestly, and we need to not use points as a way to just speak quickly and get an opinion in, but rather to use that through the debate procedure that should be allotted to us as a deliberative body. Now, moving to student concerns and discussion with legislative leadership, I think it's going to be most appropriate to have no legislators provide student concerns. Again, this is not at all personal, but this is strictly because you have the opportunity to express your concerns as a student through your role as a legislator. So this is not intended to take away speaking time or an opinion from anybody. It is not intended to limit the voice of any student or legislator in this body. Instead, it is just meant to keep debate where it should be in the debating period. So yeah, in the future, if you are a legislator who has a student concern, please give it as a part of debate. And if you are a legislator that wants to express a student concern on behalf of somebody else, then of course you are allowed to do that in the way that you were before. In addition, I'm still trying to go through the recent minutes, and shout out to our legislative secretary, Samah, for an excellent taking of the minutes for really long meetings. And so I'm trying to go through and summarize some of the procedure through that. Still working on that. Probably I'll have it by the weekend. And then also to be determined time on the weekend, probably Saturday midday. I'd like to be able to hold like a conference call or something, just if you guys have any more questions about procedure. And so I'll put up a poll for the easiest times to do that on the weekend, probably in the CBL channel, for you all to start to direct questions to me, because our meetings are still going to be pretty long in April, and there are definitely going to be more procedural considerations that we're going to need to discuss. So please direct those to me at any time, but we're going to have some time allotted on the weekend to discuss that a little further. With that, I think I'm good, and speaker's time is directed back to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian. We have nothing else on the speaker's time. We'll move to the finance report now. VP of Finance.
Hey y'all, how are y'all doing? Hope everyone's doing well. Quick report today. No student groups are going to be able to buy physical items as of right now, including the SGA. That's because all items still have to be sent to the university warehouse. And there's a stay-at-home order for the University of Maryland. I don't anticipate that impacting that many groups. I don't anticipate it impacting the SGA at all, but it's still something to be aware of. SGA surplus accounts have been frozen. Surplus accounts, that was the money used for the gala, or not the gala, the brunch, whatever it's called. Legislative reserves, cabinet reserves are still able to be used as normal. There are certain issues with making payments happen. If you are trying to write a bill now more than ever, and you're trying to like spend money, please talk to me before the bill is submitted, not after. Because even with the 2-week period, it's like very close to the wire. Yeah, we still can't make transfers to the College Park Foundation. That just is what it is. The SGA accounts are there. Funding deadline's been moved back to April 10th, and there will be budget trainings offered digitally at any time later on. So I'll take any questions. If not, that's pretty much it.
So if there are any questions, you can just unmute yourselves and first raise your hand up and then unmute yourselves. Seeing there are no hand raises, I'll take a motion.
There's no motion.
Motion to approve the committee report.
There are actionable items here.
No, there's no action. It's not a report. I mean,
We're all good.
Is it all updates? Okay, never mind. Okay, we'll move to first reading calendar now. On the first reading calendar, we have S20041A, a resolution in support of the creation of a peer student program for students in Freshman Connection. This report will be assigned to the Committee of Academic Affairs and also to the Committee of Communications as secondary. Next, we have S20041B, a resolution in support of the creation of an optional Univ 100 module for Freshman Connection sections. Again, this will be assigned to the Committee of Academic Affairs as well as primary, and Communications and secondary as well. Let's go back to, okay. The third bill on first reading calendar is S20041C, a resolution urging the administration South Campus Commons and Courtyards to provide increased financial support and emergency housing recommendations in response to COVID-19 by Malinchak outline. And I assume there was a motion on this bill.
Yeah, I would like to motion to reorder business to move this to second reading at the beginning of second reading.
Okay, seeing it's a procedural motion, we will get to vote. Okay, so everyone in favor of the motion, just do the same thing, yeses again, and everyone against do noes, and you get to abstain by a hand raise. Okay. Okay, great. So the motion carries with 30 to 0 to 1. I'll just move it to the start of the second meeting. Okay. Now we'll move into the second reading calendar. Any student concerns on the bill?
Point of order.
2041C.
Point of order. Are we moving this to the beginning or end of the second reading calendar? I'm sorry.
Beginning.
At the beginning. Yeah.
I appreciate it. I didn't catch that. My apologies.
Yeah. Any student concerns on this bill?
I have an update. So we talked about this informally in student concerns in student affairs yesterday. And out of the 12 people there, we had 10 attended as a yes and 2 abstaining, with me being one of the abstentions. And we generally had positive reviews of the bill. And I believe Alex made some amendments based on what we discussed. And yeah, that's my update.
Okay, thank you for your student concern. We have a student concern from Amit. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Hi, my name's Amit. I'm on the Civic Affairs Committee. I wrote the bill with Alex, and I just wanted to share my concerns as someone who lives in Commons myself. I just think the response has been handled very poorly by the university. There's been a lot of confusing information. Students haven't been given a lot of resources and opportunities to get the emergency housing they need. And a lot of people are being pushed in to situations that actually aren't great for them. We're not getting refunds for time that we weren't allowed to live in Commons or Courtyards for like half of March. We're not getting any refunds for that at the moment. For people who are living on campus, they're not getting anything for half of March. And there's just a lot of problems with how the school is handling it. And I think that this bill we worked on with a lot of other legislatures, a lot of other people in the task force we have put together, really addresses that. And it's something that we really need the SGA to support on behalf of students that live in Commons and Courtyards and that live in on-campus housing. So I just wanted to share that, especially as an out-of-state student, how difficult this process has been for me to essentially having been kicked out of my housing without a lot of recourse to get my things back and all that. So I hope this bill passes. And thanks for letting me share.
Okay. Next up, thank you for your student concern. Next up is Hannah.
Hi. So I lived in Commons last semester, and I was supposed to be abroad, or I was abroad for a bit this semester, and I'll be living there again next year. And I just want to reiterate my concern with how unclear the communication has been, and to say that I think the lack of communication and all of the failures of communication have had really serious repercussions. And it has really meant that people haven't been able to make informed decisions. For example, they announced that there would be a daily rate would be charged, but they didn't say how much it would be. And people had to email back and forth before figuring out the answer. So yeah, I guess my main concern is that students, because of this lack of clarity, students were discouraged from applying for emergency housing that they maybe really needed, and that there were students who were denied emergency housing. And I understand that we're in a public health crisis, but it seems that UMD, especially Commons and Courtyards, are in a position where they could provide housing that would put students in safer and more like educational, like a situation where they're able to continue their classes with more support. And so I'm really concerned about why they've been saying that they're going to evict students by the 5th. Thank you.
Just a second. Thank you for your student concern. And now we'll move to the main question. Yeah.
I think the BSOS rep might have student concerns to share. I'm not sure.
I just saw their hand raised. Sorry. Yeah. BSOS rep, go ahead.
Hi, I just unmuted myself. But so my main question is whether I can be able to speak in behalf of myself as a student. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, so I was a former resident in South Campus Commons, and it was a very trivializing time for myself within the past 2 weeks. I was afraid to go home because I felt like I had the inclination that I would be a carrier and pass it on to family members that I deeply care about, and like didn't want to give any inclination whatsoever that I could possibly give it to them. And so I stayed on campus for a little while. I actually just moved back on Sunday. And so I'm at my current residence right now. But it was very difficult. And I would like to vouch that I had to have calls with South Campus Commons numerous times regarding a lot of different housing issues that I felt like they either just did not handle very well or they did not handle well in the most efficient way possible. Even within just vouching for yesterday, when I had to call them regarding more information about the daily rate for students that are requesting to be in emergency housing, even within me not like being in that situation. But I still was just very, very caring and cautious over those students that I felt like should not have been like scrutinized in any fashion whatsoever with this new policy. And so the response given was very short and very brash. There just wasn't a lot of information being there in the first place until the next day when we received a chart for what it would look like. And after making calculations, there seemed to be seemed like it was very inflated within the authentication of this rate in the first place. So in my mind, that is a red flag because it's just very much so disadvantaging a lot of students that are already in vulnerable positions within being able to have access to this housing. So I encourage everyone to take a glance within the fullness of context of what this bill is authorizing, because it's definitely impacting more than one person in different ways, and be able to make your decision from there. So.
Thank you for your student concern. For people who asked me questions about why we had the BSOS rep speaking, so since the David's update happened just today in this meeting, I was giving leeway to the reps because they were following this procedure till last meeting with the reps speaking on student concerns. But from next meeting onwards, we will not have reps speaking on in student concerns. Okay. Are there any more student concerns?
Yes, I have one also.
Okay, go ahead.
So one of my constituents sent this to me. I'm an off-campus outlying BSOS student, and I support this resolution. Although I don't live on campus, it's clear from what fellow students have said that there has been a lot of confusion about their current housing status. This confusion has made it difficult for students to understand their rights as tenants and therefore make informed decisions to avoid exploitation. There were contradictory statements made about what students would be charged for their daily rate, and many students needed to send multiple emails to get anything resembling a straight answer. Additionally, students should not be charged for emergency housing, as the university should put students' well-being above any loss of revenue. Many students may not have safe homes to return to, or any home at all, and were relying on the university for safe, reliable housing. I urge the SGA to support this resolution as it is in the best interest of vulnerable students.
Okay. Again, thank you for your concern. Seeing there is no committee report on this bill, we'll move into the main question. And is the body ready for the main question?
No.
Hearing no, we'll move into a period of debate. Mr. Parliamentarian.
Would you check your Slack briefly?
Yeah, just a second.
Thank you. Just for reference, this bill should not be on edit access.
Is it on edit access? Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
we can.
I did add a group of amendments. I was gonna motion to amend as a block. I just added them so that they could go quicker.
Would you prefer to motion to amend those now?
Yeah, I can do that if that's in order. So motion to amend as a block, all of the ones that I added, as well as the North Hill rep added 3 at the end on clause 27. They're all just clarifying, none of them are substantive or changing the specific asks of the bill.
If there are technical amendments, then they can be added just by the consent of the sponsor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
if they don't change the meeting, and I looking through, I agree.
Okay. So
they're technical amendments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I would ask. Wait, so will they be considered as friendly amendments?
Yes.
Yes, because this is the sponsor.
Yeah. So does the off-campus outlying rep consider all of those as friendly amendments?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just resolve it. Okay.
Are there other amendments that aren't technical on this bill? I'm looking through.
Not that I have to offer.
Perfect.
Okay. So I just checked. This wasn't on editing access. It was just commenting access. So I think we are fine for the most of it. Just a second. Okay. So off-campus outlying representative, you have the floor now.
Okay, I seek to yield as much time as I may consume. So I've been involved in the COVID Student Task Force, as many of you know, and this bill is endorsing the housing priorities that the housing group and the task force has put together, as well as some of the priorities related to the first gen and low income group, which are going to be the ones in the last clause, which ask for the creation of a multi-million-dollar fund specifically for students who are facing financial distress related to COVID. George Mason University, another university in Maryland, Emory University have all have.
Hey, Mr. Parliamentarian, can you start the timer? It has been for a while. Sorry.
You're good. So these universities have already created multi-million-dollar funds, and Montgomery College has also created about a $500,000 fund. So I think if Montgomery College is able to create similar to what we have with the Student Crisis Fund, but creating one specifically for students facing issues related to COVID-19, I think that we should be able to do it too. I also want to go back to a lot of the student concerns that were said by Courtyards and Commons residents, but also from people like me who live off campus, that this is about a lack of clarity and also a lack of willingness to tell students who they can contact to find out the answer. Many students have had to email back and forth for days only to find out information like why are students being forced to move out between these states? Why is it being pushed back? There should be reasoning given for these things. Even if that reasoning is incomplete, students understand this is a crisis, but there seems to be a lack of effort to clearly communicate the reasoning and process behind all of these rapidly changing things, almost to the point where I see a lack of consideration for how this impacts a lot of students, especially financially insecure students who have immunocompromised family members. And so it makes it really hard for students to understand their rights. And this is especially important in Commons and Courtyards, where the properties are privately managed properties. And so I find it completely unacceptable. And honestly, there's a lot of questionable legality with the way that Commons and Courtyards have been communicating with the residents and the people who signed those leases. I want to highlight 2 specific examples of specific times that the university or South Campus Commons or Courtyards was ambiguous or lacked clarity to the point where this seriously harmed students' ability to make informed decisions. First of all, on Monday, they announced that there would be a daily rate. As the student said, this daily rate announcement came hours after Hogan's stay-at-home executive order. Despite making an announcement about a daily rate being charged, only after students emailed back and forth, multiple students, were we able to determine that no daily rate had yet been set. I find it irresponsible to tell students that there is a daily rate, yet not have a rate to tell students, because you're essentially telling students you're going to have to pay something, but we're not going to tell you what that is. Another example I would like to point to is the emergency housing petition form, which was sent out on the 25th and 30th of March with not updated and incorrect information, including the due date. So the form was originally sent out on the 20th, and they actually abruptly changed it yesterday to not include the updated correct information, but to include much less information. So there has been a consistent lack of clarity and a lack of understanding for the stressful and complicated situations that many students are in. If any other legislators would like to speak, I can yield time to you. Yeah, I would like to yield time to the North Hill rep. North Hill rep?
Oh, sorry, I forgot that I couldn't unmute myself. All right, thank you very much for bringing this resolution forward. I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about what the Residence Hall Association did last night, where we debated and passed unanimously, I might add, a very similar bill. It was essentially that actually it wasn't heated debate at all. It was pretty much most people who were residents of Commons who sit on our Senate, coming forward and talking about the troubles that all of this miscommunication has caused them, and that includes myself. As many of you know, I am a Mississippi resident, and for the last almost complete week, I flew up to Maryland after previously leaving so that I could move all of my stuff into a storage unit. That involved endangering myself on a grand total of 2 flights, renting a U-Haul, renting a storage unit, and by the time that I finished all of that, I learned, before I flew home, I got an email saying that I could have kept all of my stuff there. Although they haven't communicated that would be at no cost. I know from conversations that I've had as being a part of RHA that they currently don't have, that they currently are not planning on charging students. But I'm glad that in this piece of legislation at the end, it's urging that they truly communicate to students what their plan is regarding like all storage options, so that nobody makes the same costly mistake that I and other students have done because we wanted to protect our stuff. I do have a slight concern, or maybe this is more of a clarification. In the task force's housing priorities document, it says that students were notified that those using emergency housing would be billed daily. However, there's no determined daily rate. From my conversations with people in Capstone, they won't be billing students daily. They will be charging them daily, but we won't be having to pay every single day. And I think that task force document doesn't reflect that. Yes, to address the student concerns that have come up, I think that it is ridiculous that people are having to pay full price, or actually slightly more than full price for less services. It's purely ridiculous.
What would you like to do with your time?
Yes, I yield back.
Okay. Off-campus outline.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly address the point that regarding the housing priorities document made by the task force, that was at the time that they released that decision. So I'll work with the task force to make sure that is updated for sure. But as we all know, this is a super rapidly changing situation. And in these times when there's so much stuff going on, changing, it's an unprecedented time. Protecting students' rights should be at the forefront of all administrators' minds. And how are students supposed to advocate for themselves when they don't even know the stakeholders who are making these decisions? It's in these times that we should be prioritizing the most vulnerable and thinking about how these policy decisions and communications affect our entire campus community. It seems almost like the university was kind of hoping that everybody would just be able to leave. And while I understand the need to have most students leave campus, this type of hope almost clouded the ability to serve the students who aren't able to leave for reasons outside of their control. And I would like to yield to the BSOS rep. I think if she wants to speak, I think that's why her hand's up.
Okay. BSOS rep, go ahead.
I seek to yield as much
Go ahead.
time as I may consume. As representative, I just want to speak in behalf of the work that the task force has able to really build itself up on, and how that is relevant toward the bill at hand. So the origination of even a lot of the works that have occurred within the task force in the first place was just simply because of a lot of concerns students had about housing. And it was as soon as emails were sent forward in the beginning regarding housing that were just recommending students that were not even in just South Campus Commons and in Courtyards, which we are further addressing within this set moment, but in all areas throughout College Park. It was an ushered, not even an ushered, but it was readily seen as a demand for students to just flat out get all their stuff and leave as a pure evacuation. And there were already concerns with that, as students were just okay, well, what if I can't leave? What if there are situations that are impeding my ability to be able to actually go and leave? What if there are people that are within my family or those that are loved ones that are having the situation where they are struggling? They're struggling financially, they're struggling health wise, or really any other indication that is disrupting their ability to even go back to their permanent homes if possible. And so I think what this bill really clears itself up on is that it administers to all students that are facing a lot of these various hardships that reflect housing. It reflects vulnerable students that were trying to make the decision of what they should be able to do when all of these fluctuating emails came out in behalf of the university as to what guidance they should be able to take, and even the fluctuating emails that students are still receiving today. And it also ushers in on the students that have, up to the farthest extent, at the end of the day, do not even have the opportunity to resort in going into a form of residence that they consider to be permanent, whether of what their permanent home is consistent of are homes that are settled within College Park, within the deemed area of it being of South Campus Commons, Courtyards, or any other inclination that they already live in. And so I think the university has done a incredibly poor job and being able to understand what they should really be able to do. And I understand that this is a very, very unique and unprecedented time for everyone that is trying to make these decisions. And I understand that they're trying to do everything in their very best. But I think that a lot of the measures that were taken were kind of just measures to be of an easy way out of a situation that is so multidimensional that it is readily impossible to just kind of make very flimsy, whimsical remarks in the hopes that everyone will just pack up and follow. And so this really authenticates protecting tenant rights. And I am just very appreciative for this bill to even be here within the surface. I know that a lot of people were involved in this process and making this happen. And so I urge and hope for all of us to make a sound decision when it comes within putting in this bill and showing it to the greatest extent of respect that we should. I yield back.
Okay. So Mr. Parliamentarian's connection failed. So I'm keeping time with me, and it's 17:20 on negative. Oh, sorry, on affirmative, and 30 on negative. So yeah, back to off-campus outline.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna close with this, that we have heard very inconsistent and unclear communication from the university regarding move-out instructions, from reimbursements to the daily prorated rate that students would be charged, to where students would actually be able to stay, to information on forms and websites that the university sent out to students. There has been a lack of accurate and clear information, which has made it very hard for students to protect themselves and make the best decisions for them. All answers imply a slow-moving process that many students simply can't afford to wait for. While we understand this is an unprecedented time and no one will have all the answers, the financial needs and emotional health of our students must be prioritized. And I would like to reserve back.
Okay. So seeing off-campus outlying as reserved her floor, we have 16 minutes and 53 seconds on affirmative and 30 on negative. Would anyone like to seek the negative floor? I'll just clear it all and then I'll ask again. Anyone who wants to seek the negative floor? Seeing no one, I'll give it back to off-campus outlying for the positive floor. Would you wish to speak, or you yield it back to me?
I just forgot to say one other thing that I was hoping to say last time, that I see this bill as a continuation of the bill we passed last week by the South Campus Commons representative, which that bill called for free emergency housing and free storage and some other things. This is a continuation of that, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the administration and South Campus Commons and Courtyards on this. But with that, I would like to call the question.
Okay. Also off cam, just to everyone, make sure that you say I will seek to yield as much time as I may consume at the start of it. Okay. Seeing the question has been called, everyone can vote now. Go ahead. All yeses. Again, so green is yes, red is no, and hand is abstention. Okay, so with a vote of 32 to 0 to 1, the motion carries and the bill passes. Okay. We'll move to the next bill now. That's S200311C, which is an act to promote and advertise students' participation in 2020 census by the Leonardtown representative. Is there a committee report on this bill? Committee report by communications. Chinvuk. Okay. Motion. Is there a motion for the committee report?
Motion to approve.
Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the committee report is approved. Secondary committee report, civic affairs. Is Shasha here? Civic affairs.
I should be able to pull up the agenda from last week when we covered it.
No, it's fine. If the director isn't there. Okay. Since the secondary report is not considered in the actual function of the bill,
it's not critical.
Yeah, we'll move on to the bill itself. Okay. Is the body ready for the main question?
No.
Seeing no, we'll move into a period of debate. Mr. Parliamentarian is still not back, so I'll keep count. It's 30 minutes equally divided. Would the bill sponsor seek the affirmative floor?
Yes, I would love to.
Would anyone like to seek the negative floor? Seeing no one, the negative floor will be open. Leonard Representative, you have the floor.
Yep, I would seek to yield as much time as it may consume. I'm going to keep this really, really quick. Just some things that have been updated since the bill was presented in first reading. All of the amendments, by the way, I'd view as friendly. Most of them I've either made myself or were made during committee, which I was in. But basically, because the dynamic regarding the census has changed so much, there's going to be some slight changes to the way we handle communicating the census across campus. Just sort of the nature of the beast given the complicated time we live in and communicating the nature of it thereof. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to Slack me or anyone in CivGov. They can help you out with the whole thing. Sasha Marquez wrote most of it, and I sort of helped tailor it as well as the rest of the committee. It's a great bill. Don't really have anything else to add, so I reserve my time.
I think that all the amendments are technical. Would the bill sponsor deem them as friendly?
Yes, I deem them friendly.
Okay. Great. Did the bill sponsor reserve that time? Or
I did.
Okay, so would anyone like to seek the negative floor now? Seeing no one, I'll ask the bill sponsor to take the floor again, or yield your time back to me.
Yes, I would like to yield my time back to you, back to the speaker.
Okay, seeing both the floors are yielded to me again, so we'll move into a period of voting. All in favor? Okay, there are 33 people voting. If you're not a representative, you're not allowed to vote. Just be sure. Just going through this. Okay, I guess some new representatives has joined us. With a vote of 34-0 to 1, the motion carries and the bill passes. We'll move to the next bill now. Let's do this. Okay, S200311E, an act forming an ad hoc committee on the protection of student voices by the North Hill representative.
Point of personal privilege.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm back. I apologize. My Wi-Fi completely died, but I'm back. So I'm sharing a screen. Would you give me co-host access?
Oh, just a second.
And re-enable screen sharing.
Just paid your co-host.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. We're back. And better than ever.
Great. So is there a committee report on the S200311E? Constitution and bylaws. So parliamentarian.
Yes, please give me a second to pull this up. Okay, we went through 0311C. Okay. Thank you. Yes, so the committee report on this bill 200311E was 9-0 to 2 in the primary committee constitution and bylaws. Notes on this, there are some substantive changes that were made in the committee on its recommendations, primarily in clause 7. Initially on submission, the bill was going to have a semi-closed ad hoc committee, which would have been formed and composed solely of members of the legislature indicating interest to the speaker pro tempore, along with a parliamentarian who would be, by the bill's construction, added to the committee. Instead, the amendment, which was then 8-3 to 1, voted in favor on in the committee, was to change it to an open ad hoc committee, pretty simply to allow for further members of SGA as well as potentially the student body. A clause was added to, apologies for background noise, allow for the committee to meet regularly, and then to set specific dates by which it should be issuing recommendations, both for online meetings and then later on for regular meetings, even though they aren't strictly relevant to this semester and thus would not go into effect just by the committee's recommendations alone.
Okay, I'll take a motion on the committee report. Northel Rep, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Oh, I just had a quick question. I wrote in there, so when we made the amendments, we didn't actually amend the action plan, and I made a comment to put that in there on the 4 and 5. And also on there, I thought this happened in committee where we wrote, it says mid-May on clause 10, and I was supposed to be like before inauguration because the committee would automatically dissolve.
Yeah, correct. So amendments to the action plan by you would be technical amendments and they're favorable. And then as we commented through, I believe either today or yesterday, in terms of changing mid-May to April 29th, that happened in like a few minutes right after committee. But they would be a very favorable technical amendment and would
right. I wrote that I felt them they were favorable and or friendly and technical.
Yes, correct.
We want to make those. I also moved to accept with amendments.
Wait, okay. Do you have access to make those, Rafael?
Oh my gosh, maybe. So I made. I can. All I need to do is change mid-May.
Yeah. Yes.
29.
29.
And
then by the preposition before April 29.
What? Yeah,
that would be good.
Okay. Let's just.
Excuse me. I have a point of information that was from the president that should have been in general or legislature, but that's no problem. The point of information reads, would it be possible to set a meeting, have an election, and have the rules from the committee all by the 15th?
Okay, I would direct that to the Northfield representative.
Yes.
Northfield rep.
I said yes.
It would be possible. I'm just clarifying with the.
Madam President, you can speak as well. Do you have any further questions?
It's good.
In terms of like regular, I guess another point of information is, can you give some insight to what regularly means? Is that weekly, daily?
So the chair would be deciding that at the first election, but regularly would mean like at a regular, like at a similar interval. I was imagining that this would be meeting probably 3 or 4 times before April 15th. Based off of the schedule of the people who have expressed interest to the committee. If we have a problem with the word regularly, that can also be changed though.
I just wanted clarification for people who might be potentially interested.
So
to
probably
understand the time commitment.
2 times, more than weekly. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other points?
None for me.
Okay. So I have a motion to approve the committee report. All in favor?
With amendments?
Okay, yeah. Northfield rep with amendments. Okay. Any objections to that? Seeing no objections, the committee report is approved. We will add those amendments in just a second. It's a lot of amendments. Okay. We'll move into the secondary committee report from the DNI director. Is there someone from the committee who wants to speak? Because I know the committee didn't meet. Okay, seeing no one, we'll move to the main question. Is the body ready for the main question? Okay. All in favor?
Voting with rights motioned by the bill sponsor.
Voting
Okay.
with rights. Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be taken.
Okay. Okay, with a vote of 28 to 0 to 3, the
Point of order, real quick. What are raised hands for right now?
abstentions have announced.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, okay, the bill changes. The voting changed. Are people done voting? Okay. So with the vote of 31 to 0 to 3, the motion carries and the bill passes. Okay. We're doing really good on time.
Let's see how long that lasts.
Yeah, this is record pace.
Up. Didn't expect that though. Anyways, okay, we'll move to the next bill, S200311F.
Wait, voting with rights from Northell?
Okay, yeah. I'll just clear all, and everyone who wants to speak can raise their hands. Okay, Northell, go ahead.
Great, thank you so much. So I just wanted to say that the bill is now technically in Kislay's hands, but I'm hoping to work with him so that we can have a meeting as soon as possible for the election of a chair, which he'll run. I'll naturally be running, but democracy. And I just wanted to say that the intent of this bill is just to protect students, because that is our job first. Many people come up to many different things, and they sometimes feel harassed, or they feel like they are potentially their information is being put out there. And so hopefully the meetings will be able to come up with some good procedure, and also come up with some good ideas to advise students, and also to advise the legislature on how to proceed on contentious things. So I invite you all to join. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak with rights? Okay, we'll move to the next bill now. So S200311F, a resolution urging the university administration to submit a proposal to the National Security Agency's On-Ramp 2 program by the business representative. Is
Point
there a
of clarification before we move into the committee real quick, please? Point of clarification has been raised to me that bills do get signed by the president. That was just raised to me.
Okay.
That's it.
So, well, yeah, back to the bill, S200311F. Is there a committee report on this bill?
Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So this went through academic affairs. We had some technical edits, just like grammar. So in clause 5 and 6 to modify bachelor's without the apostrophe before the S to add the apostrophe. And then in clause 14, capitalization of lablet. And that was it. And other than that, it was a 10 to 2, or 10 0 to 2. So 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 abstain.
Okay. Is there a motion on the committee report?
Motion to approve.
Any objections? Seeing none, the committee report. Is this motion with amendments or without amendments?
With amendments.
Okay. The motion carries. Seeing no objections, so committee report has been approved. We'll move to the main question. Is the body ready for the main question? No. Is that an abstention, or it's a no? Okay. Seeing a no, we will move into a period of debate, 30 minutes equally divided. Would the bill sponsor like to hold the affirmative floor?
Yes.
Does anyone seek the negative floor? You can do a hand raise. Okay. Seeing the negative floor is, okay. Since no one raised their hand, the negative floor remains open. The floor is with you, business rep.
I would like to make some additional amendments to this bill. They're already on the actual bill. They just have to be approved.
So motion that.
Yes, I would like to, yeah, still trying to get Robert's rules. I motion to approve all the additional edits as a block that I added, and I can go over them. The National Security Agency, they extended the deadline for this program from the 10th to the 24th because of the whole coronavirus pandemic situation. So one of the edits was like that, and then the other edits just add 3 representatives as co-sponsors: the BSOS representative Alyssa Conway, the other business representative Jamie A, and the first year representative Cole Alderman.
Okay. Seeing that all those amendments are friendly, would you?
They can just be technical.
Yeah, so these are technical, right? So would you deem friendly?
I deem them friendly.
Okay. Is the body ready for the main question now? Or wait, so no, business rep has the floor.
I yield the remainder. I yield the remainder of my time back to the chair. Is that the thing? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, seeing that both the floors are with me now, I will move into a period of voting. All in favor? Okay. 29. Okay. Seeing the vote to be 30 to 0 to 2. Oh, sorry, 30 to 0 to 3. Wait, the votes keep fluctuating. Okay, 31 to 0 to 3. The bill carries, and a few people voted on this with rights. The business rep.
Okay, I would just like to thank everyone who supported this bill. Can you mute that? Yeah, I'm sorry. I would like to thank everyone who supported this bill. I would also like to thank my high school IT teacher who introduced this program to me. She sent it to me from one of her sorority sisters, and she's actually watching the YouTube live stream now, and she's very, very proud. But yes, thank you so much for voting for this bill. I think this bill is going to do lots of good for the students of the University of Maryland, specifically those who are underrepresented in the STEM field, which, the bill lays out all the statistics regarding that, and, how there's lots of disparities, and we hope to be able to help aid those disparities with the passage of this bill and the hopeful, submission of an application to the program by the university. So thank you so much, and let's get on with business.
We have voting with rights by the BSOS representative.
Sorry for the echo.
No worries.
Yeah, it's just me. It's Jamie. Oh, yeah. Can I talk, or can you guys hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I just want to give a huge shout out to Hunter for spearheading this bill and creating it. This is really great work, and especially, for economic empowerment, especially for minority students. So great work, Hunter. Just want to follow up again. Thank you for everyone who voted in passing this bill. Hunter actually helped spearhead a relationship that we had with the DSAC, which is the Dean Student Advisory Council for Smith. And we actually presented this bill to Dean Mullins and their Dean Student Advisory Board. And so I just wanted to follow up with stuff like, bills like these are very important. And because we did pass this bill, for any of the legislators who, are representative of the STEM field, so that's comp sci, engineering, sorry for the notifications. If you could please send this bill as well to your deans or any type of department heads, just to really, push the voice out there and really help push UMCP to be a part of this program, and hopefully that we can, continue this relationship there. But that's all I want to say. So thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak with rights? Seeing no one.
I'm sorry, don't mean to oblige, but
Yeah, I didn't see the hand raised.
That was who I meant.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I would like to say thank you for everyone that voted for this bill. I just want to just give a quick inclination that there have been students within the university, specifically minority students, that I felt like that they've needed more representation in different fronts, and that includes within STEM. And so I am appreciative for the business representative to upbridge this and make this into a reality, as after having the insight from a lot of students that have wanted to have increased representation in different ways on campus. This is definitely something that is positive. I want to echo on what the other business rep inclinated, that this is something that we need to push to the deans, and just within further context of conversations that I've had with deans prior, they're very open within communication, and that this would definitely be a great program to insinuate within each of those areas. So I definitely recommend all academic and residential to reach out.
Thank you, BSS Rep. We'll move into the last bill on the second reading calendar now. This is great progress.
This is weird.
Yeah, I feel really good now. Anyways, S200311H, an act amending the bylaws to ensure a coherent transition of power contingent on the university's closure due to COVID-19 by the Speaker of the Legislature.
I have a motion on this bill.
Just a second. Yeah.
Is that a point of
Go
information?
ahead.
My motion.
Cambridge Rep has a motion.
Motion to dissolve the legislature and move to the committee of the whole with the speaker pro tem as the chair, and the committee will consist with voting members and then the president and the vice president.
Okay. All in favor of that motion?
Do you want to explain why the motion a little bit?
Okay, I guess people new ones don't know about this. So this, because bylaws have a lot of tricky things discussed in there, we cannot have a proper discussion following the parliamentary procedure. So what we do is we dissolve into a committee of the whole, where we work on these different minute changes. And once we are done discussing all of them, they are suggested to the motion sponsor, and through using motion sponsors final say, we'll use them back as a legislative amendment to the bill. So
would the chair look favorably if I could briefly give a committee report, even if that might be slightly out of order, or to explain what we're doing right now, because I think that's unclear.
Would you be fine with giving a committee report in the committee of the whole? Doesn't change much.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, so we can go back to voting now. Yeah, go ahead. I hope people are voting. Is quorum not met yet? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Is it possible to also, if he's on here, to include the chief of staff?
As a voting member?
Yes.
No.
They would not.
The president is already in there. If chief of staff has a concern, they can come through.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, and also, okay, good. So the motion carries with 30 to 0 to. I would assume that all the people who didn't vote are abstaining. Oh, okay. So 30 to 0 to 3. And we'll move into a committee of the whole. So now I will unmute. I will ask all the legislative members to unmute themselves. Unless they have some background noises, please make sure that you're not letting that happen here. And the exec members are also allowed to speak without any issues. Okay. If you want to speak, you can raise your hand. I'll address you and then you get to speak. But since we wanted the committee report, the parliamentarian starts. Okay.
Thank you very much. Avoiding some background noise quickly here. Okay, wonderful. So returning to this bill 200311H, it may seem a little arcane at first as to why we're doing this. And so I want to take some time to explain why it is likely necessary for us to do this. Initially, this bill was a joint venture between the speaker and myself, written to address the worst case scenario of, well, what if we don't have any more GBMs and then we have elections and then there is a complete discord between the bylaws and the election rules. And that would be a significant problem that would immediately lead to a crisis of governance. Now, fortunately, that isn't the case. We still have GBMs, hooray. And even though they are on the online format, they allow us to consider changes. Now, we did stumble across, though, one problem that actually was an amendment made last year to the bylaws, and I'm scrolling down all the way because it's in Article 14 under the amendment process to the bylaws, and that is Section 1, Clause 3. I'm highlighting here on screen, which is to say that any changes made to elected positions in the SGA bylaws after election results have been finalized shall only take effect in the following election pending approval in the SGA elections rules. Now, what this means is that if we were to consider the relevant bylaws changes that we made across the election rules, and if we were to consider those changes in omnibus, that is to say that they wouldn't actually take place really in the bylaws. Now, the intent of this was instead to ensure that there were not elected positions created that didn't have elections for them. And this intent doesn't really apply, I believe, to the situation that we are in because we are not really adding positions. Instead, we are consolidating them. And just for background, for those of you who weren't with us in the fall, I should have addressed this sooner. So the proposed election rules changes, which I believe were unanimous or very nearly so, would be to move to a structure with a president, with a singular vice president, then with a director of academic affairs, with a director of student affairs, and an elected chief financial officer that would in large part occupy the same sorts of responsibilities as the current VP of Finance, but then also to have an appointed treasurer that would handle the SGA side of funding. So the chief financial officer would handle student group allocations, and the treasurer would then handle SGA kind of internal money spent. And so I'll invite people to clarify that as time goes on, especially with the VP of Finance, who I believe is here. But those are the changes that we are seeking to make as a part of this bill, and we're seeking to do them now rather than through the omnibus process, because if we did them in omnibus, then they might not in theory be legal to take place. And so it is important to consider this bill, and as we move into the emergency copy of the bylaws, that is where the actual substance of this bill is. These are very, very scarce changes, and there's nothing hidden about this. To the best of the committee's understanding, this was unanimous with only me abstaining, 9 votes in favor, 0 against me abstaining. And so as these changes load, there is kind of one off-topic change, which is to change the title of commuter representative to off-campus outlying, which is the referred title as it's been really for 2 years now. I have no idea why this wasn't addressed. And these are extremely minor changes than the rest throughout. I can address them. I'll open it up to questions now. You all can read this on your own time, but I do want to say, yeah, this is all out in the open. Please, I'll take any questions.
Hello? Point of information. Do I say point of information or just like say?
Either way, it doesn't.
All right, cool. So I guess when we originally, I just wanted to refresh, when we originally made the changes during the fall semester, yes. Did we agree that it was going to be for this semester specifically, or did we have that conversation? Yes or no? Do you remember by any chance?
Parliamentarian.
The entire conversation was to be changing it for the upcoming academic year. Yeah, that was my understanding of it. If anybody feels differently, please let me know. But that was the conversation.
Okay.
Okay. Just for clarity purposes, I would ask everyone to raise their hands before they speak, and I'll address them. Okay.
No worries.
Let's move amendment by amendment. Mr. Parliamentarian, can you go to the first one?
Okay. Sorry, my computer remains slow. The Vice President of Finance has raised hand.
Vice President of Finance, go ahead. Vice President of Finance.
I just wanted to clarify that the this emergency copy would not be adding a treasurer position. It'd simply be subbing out the name VP of Finance to Chief Financial Officer.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Again, this is really the bare minimum of what we would need to have accordance with the election rules. So yeah, we're actually not even changing those full responsibilities, as hopefully we will, and that was the conversation before. But really, yeah, this is solely for things to agree. So right now, actually, this bill, all it would do would be to create the same position or just change the name of it.
Okay, let's move amendment by amendment. So the first amendment was off-campus outlying instead of commuter. I would say that's friendly.
I mean, it's technical, but nothing should be friendly here.
Yeah. Is there any? Okay, off-campus outlying.
Yeah. Can people hear me? I just have a question, not about this specific one. I want to make sure I'm understanding this. So we were about, if it wasn't for no school and this coronavirus situation, we were going to hold elections for a VP this spring without having that position in the bylaws.
Well, okay, so if we hadn't had school, we were talking about this anyways, and we probably would have submitted legislation for this purpose, but then we were worried about not having school. So yeah, I think in either, hypothetical world, we would have done this, but I was less worried about it if we didn't have this situation arise, just because there seemed to be relative consensus on what, the omnibus procedure was going to be.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Is there anyone who wants to speak on the off-campus outlying amendment? Okay, we'll take an informal vote. Is there any
Mr.
objection?
Speaker, can we move by acclamation here? Yeah.
Just a second. Yeah. Can you repeat that, parliamentarian?
Can we just move by acclamation? I'm assuming there will be something that's a little bit contested.
Okay. Let's move to the next one.
Apologies, one sec, addressing the slot concern. Moving down.
Yeah, it's a big.
I believe it's now Article 2. Yeah, there's a lot here. For those of you who haven't seen this before, welcome to CBL. Okay. Article 2, Section 1, Subsection A, Clause 1A through F in this case. This is the names only. We still have a student body president. Now we have a vice president who's central. Now we have a chief financial officer instead of a vice president of financial affairs. And then we'll have director level positions for academic and student affairs.
David, shouldn't that read student body vice president?
It can. It can be either way. We've referred to it both ways throughout this document. At a later point, we can standardize language. I don't, from the current account that I have, I don't seem to have edit access. Oh, no, I do. Hooray. I'll add student body vice president just for that purpose only, because it is referred to as we go down in that title.
Okay. Let's move to, is there any objection to that, or would anyone like to speak? Okay, Vice President of Finance.
I just want to throw this out there. Since in this document right now, the Chief Financial Officer is doing the exact same job as the current VP of Finance, what about adding them into the succession policies right after the Vice President? I mean, if it's really contentious, I'll say no, like it doesn't matter. But like, since they're basically doing what a vice president already, like they're basically doing my job right now as VP of Financial Affairs, just under a different title.
Okay.
I think that throws an unnecessary wrench into this.
Madam President, go ahead.
I would say that they are part of the succession plan because they're allowed to be nominated. But in order to create a clear line of succession, it's not about like, you don't want to have the vice president and the chief financial officer duking it out who serves in the interim.
I want to clarify. I meant the vice president would have first priority, and then it'd be if the vice president is unwilling or unable to serve, then it goes to the chief financial officer to serve in the interim, and then it goes to it should be throwing another person in.
I think depending on what's going on, like, there are weeks where you are insanely busy as the VP of Finance. I don't think that is smart, in my opinion.
Also, later in the document, it says that Chief of Staff takes over in the case that the student body president and the vice president are not able to like fulfill their duties.
So yeah, that's correct. And this hypothetical scenario is predicated on several things, which I don't believe will ever happen. But I would also raise the concern that the chief financial officer is in and of itself a very important role, as we've been discussing through the committee, and it might be scary to disrupt that committee to pull them into the line of succession. I'm open to this. I just think it's a lot of moving parts that are all of a sudden coming to light now.
I'll withdraw it if there are that many concerns about it. It was just a thought.
No, yeah. If you want to write something up, we can come back to that succession at the end of the committee on the whole. But
Okay. For the people who want to add any amendments as of right now, since we didn't announce it earlier that we are going to have kind of this discussion, feel free to add the amendments. We'll go back to them.
No, what?
Like,
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, that defeats the entire purpose of keeping this a limited bill.
no, I'm not talking about those kind of. I'm talking about the amendments on these amendments. If
that still defeats the purpose of this bill.
Okay. Well,
I mean, we're trying to keep things limited in discussion just so we do the bare minimum to stay alive here. If succession plans are seen as a part of that, perhaps they're germane, but we should be careful about that.
Great. Okay. I apologize. I was not that sure about this whole bill.
No worries.
To be with the speaker here. Anyways, so let's move to the, let's take an informal vote on this one. All in favor?
Wait, are we just voting for the student body president, student body vice president, CFO change? Or
that's correct. Simple change.
Okay.
Is the chair noting these votes down on this copy or somewhere else?
I'm just noting them down for
that's no worries.
On a personal copy.
Can I raise a point of clarification?
Okay, from
the president, and this is very appropriate. There will still be CBL committees meeting Mondays and Thursdays now, or Thursday, tomorrow, and then also Monday for additional concerns. And there will be an omnibus procedure that we're still on track to have. So if there are concerns about just things outside the scope of this document, of course, then omnibus will remain the time in which to raise them.
Okay. Yeah. A few more things while we're at it is that I've noticed a few of you guys are speaking without me addressing it, so just make sure that you don't do that. And yeah, let's move to the next one. Mr. Parliamentarian, if you can just scroll up.
Yes, sorry, addressing a slight concern quickly. Adding chief financial officer one more time, pretty simple.
Any objections to this? Since these are informal votes, unless there is something substantive that we are discussing, I will just ask for objections. Seeing no objection, we will move to the next one.
Point of clarification, myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to address a relevant question that I got in Slack, the governing documents are open for comment, suggestion, style changes to be added until tomorrow's committee meeting. I put this out a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, if you want to add changes to these bylaws, if you see anything else, or to the standing rules of order at this point, you can put those in. And if you have questions about how to do so, please talk to me.
Okay, great. Next amendment.
Getting there.
It's fine.
I can only scroll so quickly. Oh, and now we get to succession procedures.
Okay. So this is important to discuss. I would take the committee report on this first. Go ahead.
Yeah, this was unanimous dissent back in late February. And so to explain how things would go, in this case, the vice president would assume the role of the student body president in the event of a vacancy. If the vice president did not want to serve or was not able to by other circumstances, the chief of staff would be an interim president. And then very quickly, within 24 hours, there would be notification to the entire organization about the succession procedures. And the speaker would be a part of this. The speaker must notify, and then they would go into place on a very quick timeline over 2 days, hopefully sooner than that. And then members of cabinet or the legislature would be able to submit a nomination for the president to the speaker. Then the legislature would select a new president from all the nominated candidates through a supermajority. Candidates would be vetted by the governance board, and then there would be like a runoff procedure if there was no supermajority until we finally, hopefully, arrived at one. If there were somehow a continued deadlock, I assume that, de facto politics would be able to solve that problem. And then, as with any election that the SGA would have, the advisor, chief justice, and speaker would verify all votes with the election outcome as well. This is largely in form similar to previous succession procedures, except now the vice president would directly take that role, whereas before the chief of staff would be interim, and then that sort of nomination process would occur. So that was the change, or that was, sorry, the policy previously, and now we're allowing for the vice president to take over.
Okay, the business rep, you can speak now.
Just to echo what I almost called him the CFO, what the Vice President of Finance was talking about. I am a little confused as to how, with this new system, there will be 3 like campus-wide elected positions, and correct me if I'm wrong, that will be the president, vice president, and CFO. And in an unfortunate circumstance where the president and vice president are unable to serve, I don't see why the next person who was elected by, the majority or plurality of campus would not assume that role automatically. I just want some clarification on that.
Sure. So to address kind of one part of that, I think if that's frustrating, then the current situation should be yet more frustrating, because then we have 3 equivalent vice presidents, none of whom immediately would take that position, which is awfully confusing. And it, in that circumstance, which hopefully will never occur, hopefully we don't have extenuating circumstances to that level, the chief of staff takes over in the interim, right? And so, already this is getting better in terms of adding some more election to the process. I still see your logic, and I agree, that the CFO could take over, but at the same time, they're elected for financial matters. I don't know exactly what the will of the people would be in such a case, but it might be better to put it up to the democratically elected body of the legislature. If 2 elected people are out of commission, maybe it should go to them rather than to somebody who needs to be handling student groups and finance affairs.
So, repeat yourself. Thank you. Regarding that, I completely understand everything you're saying, but the chief of staff is an appointed position, and they're not, there's no, by the, general population of the student body, there's no, vexing as to who they are or, anything like that. So I think, in my personal opinion, it would be much, clearer, not only to myself and maybe other legislators, but also to students, if, the actual transition of power would go, president, vice president, and then, chief financial officer, as I said, like they are ones who are, all 3 of those positions are ones that are, elected by the general body, like the general population of the University of Maryland students. So yes, that was my concern.
Okay. Do you want to seek to remedy this with an additional clause about the chief financial officer stepping in?
Mr. Parliamentarian, I would just wait on that for a while, because Madam Preston wants to speak as well, and then we have a few more concerns.
Okay, that's fine.
Madam Preston.
So I just want to point out that in the very unlikely event that the vice president is unable or unwilling to serve in the role, the chief of staff is only in the interim role for about, 48 hours?
Assumably, 48 hours and then maybe to the next GBM. So worst case would be like 6 days.
And I think that in terms of, if, for example, tomorrow I were to get COVID or I were to be hit by a car, the person who knows the most about what I do and how I run the organization would be Noah. He knows my day-to-day operations, and I think personally I think for most chiefs of staffs would be the person who would be able to at least hold the organization together for a week. The chief of staff would normally be a role in which that person would leave it with a new president as well, just like a lot of other, like in real life would be my guess. So I think that it also prevents any like issues there. And it's not to not include the CFO in the process because they can be nominated, but instead like to give a quick transition so that people know exactly what's going on. If you add too many people to the line of succession, it gets super confusing really quickly.
Okay, let's move to off-campus outline, Alawi. But before that, I just wanted to say, if you're done speaking, I would ask you to lower your hand raise so that we can keep the count of who wants to speak next. Alawi, off-campus outline, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I guess like 2 points. The first point is that like the current argument is that the chief financial officer has too much on their plate to stand in for the president. However, I feel that if the chief financial officer were to come to this role and realize that he has too much on his plate, then he would have the agency and the know-how to say, hey, I can't do this right now. However, just keeping it in the guidelines to make sure that an elected position makes that decision in the first place would be recommended. And the second point is that actually never mind. I just had 1 point. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does the Vice President of Student Affairs still has a? Would you still like to speak?
No, I'm good for right now.
Okay. Seeing there is no one else speaking, I would say let's have an informal vote on this one. Vice President of Financial Affairs. Go ahead.
That was a mistake. I didn't mean to raise my hand.
No issues. Yeah, we're moving into an informal vote now. Everyone in agreement to the amendment? With yeses, anyone against with a no? Okay.
Exec is supposed to vote on this, right?
No, exec is not supposed to.
We vote in the committee on the whole.
Yeah, we're voting in the committee.
They were added.
Okay, go ahead. Doesn't change much. I'm still waiting on 4 people. Okay. Okay, I think that's, yeah, that's the count. So with a vote of 30 to 5 to 1, the amendment carries. Let's move to the next one.
Point of clarification, or just
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say to all of you who did vote against this, I completely understand and appreciate your concerns. And when we get to omnibus, if you still feel it's appropriate to make those changes, that can absolutely be taken a look at again. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Next.
PPA.
Okay, so student. Okay, the removal of VP of Academic Affairs. Is there anyone who objects?
Point of information or point of clarification.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is contingent on a change that will be at the end of this addendum, which will be to add a director of academic affairs. So it's not like we're getting rid of academic affairs.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak on this, or is there any objection? saying, oh, student body president, go ahead.
Just a quick clarification. When it's looking like there's no objections, but when we vote on this, does that mean it's voting on both this and the director position, like as a block?
If you want, we can consider it as a block and not vote on it right now. That's a good point, actually.
Can I motion to consider it as block?
There are no motions, but yeah, I would rather consider it like that. Okay, we'll vote on this with the installation of director as well. So
all right, so let me scroll down to that briefly, just for clarity and for the entire legislature to see.
Okay, go ahead.
It'll be a little slow, but this is worth it. So Director of Academic Affairs would be installed in the appropriate place there, under Executive Cabinet. And as we continue to move down, yep, there we go. Subsection E, or as the letters change, but there is some additional language added here, but it's not significantly substantive. It's just to clarify the existing responsibilities that somebody in charge of academic affairs would have. I'll give everybody a second to read this over and any questions.
Okay, we can just vote on this part, right? Go ahead. If anyone wants to speak, they can raise their hands. What am I supposed to share? Not from ideas. Would anyone like to speak on this? Yes. Mr. Parliamentarian, are we still discussing the Director of Academic Affairs? Are we discussing the Vice President first?
I believe that my understanding was considering VP and Director together with that last vote.
Okay.
That was the sense I got.
Okay, that's fine. So let's just move to discussion of student body vice president, and when we get to Director of Academic Affairs, that vote will carry over for this one as well. The previous.
Right. So welcome to probably the most important thing that we're going to talk about in this session. And that would be the creation of a student body vice president. There's a good amount here.
Yeah.
So in considering this, it was intended to be something sort of like or akin to an executive vice president. We didn't want to call it that because that would be too confusing with one VP. But they will have sort of a central role. They will be able to be an executive, and they will take the role of the president should they step out or something like that, and then also have additional coordination of committees. I'll let you all read it at this point and ask for any questions. This is kept a little bit vague, probably, but of course, this would be the first year in a long time that we would have a central VP, and we want to give the next administration some time to flesh things out.
Okay, Madam President, go ahead.
I just wanted to also let people know that a lot of these bylaws, or I guess the little of these bylaws, are based a lot about what other Big Ten student governments have for their VPs. That's also kind of where these come from.
Okay, off-campus neighboring representative, David, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a quick question, which is, so this is the chief of staff, and I'm looking at the vacancy section, the chief of staff to the president, right? Like there is no chief of staff for the vice president. that right?
That's correct as it stands right now. That could be something addressed in omnibus. It is worth noting that the deputy chief of staff, in some sense, could function in support of the vice president. That's kind of to be determined, and that's kind of up to whatever working relationship the next administration has. But yes, this would be the sole chief of staff.
Okay. Vice President of Financial Affairs.
It's just a question. Why are they maintaining a dialogue with the provost if we've had issues this year with like multiple people reaching out to administrators? Like if that's the director of academic affairs' job, which is like a quick question. I'm not fighting it.
Okay. Does student body president have an answer for that?
Yeah, so this was something we kind of talked about back and forth. The provost, beyond being the chief academic officer, is also the executive vice president of the administration. So basically, like, they are technically the president's right-hand person in the university administration. So they make other decisions related to a lot of other things that happen on this campus. So that's kind of where it came out of. The provost office now has the budget office, facilities, like a wide variety of things that aren't just academic.
Makes sense.
Okay. Are there any more concerns, or does anyone else want to speak? I guess we can just move into a vote now. Okay. All in favor? Okay. But there's still 3 people to vote. People left the call. Okay. Okay. With the vote of 35 to 0 to 1, this amendment carries. Let's move to the next amendment. Mr. Parliamentarian?
Yes. The next 2 amendments in subsection F, as it currently is, are just in name only. Again, we're changing VP of Financial Affairs to Chief Financial Officer. There's not really much else.
Any objections to that? Seeing none, we'll just move to the next amendment.
Well, yeah, and that's also in name only, but we can move past that.
Yeah. Are there?
Fantastic.
Oh, okay. Student body president, go ahead.
Just like we did the vice president of academic affairs, can we block vote on the VP of student affairs removal and the creation of the director of student affairs?
Yeah,
that would be appropriate.
Okay. Let's move to the next one then. Because VP of student affairs will be considered with the director of.
Well, yeah. And so I'm just like giving some time to show VP of student affairs, the things that are being struck, and then scrolling down further to the executive cabinet where we have a new director of student affairs. And that is actually the last thing that is going to be in this addendum.
Go up to director of okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought like director of academic affairs and director of student affairs were like close by, but no, right?
Nope, it's alphabetical. Already. So if I'm not mistaken, this is the exact same language as was above, with the addition of duties assigned by the president and vice president, assuming that the vice president will have some oversight over directors in the executive cabinet.
Yeah. So currently we're just giving everyone who has to vote on this time to read it, but we'll not be voting on it. We'll go back to academic affairs, finish voting on that, and then we'll come back to this again. Okay, let's go back to director of academic
Here we
affairs.
are.
Yeah. So after VP of student affairs, let's go to director of academic affairs now. I think that's the next stage.
Yeah. Back there.
Great. So yeah, I would say committee report by the parliamentarian. Go ahead.
We already discussed this in our talk about academic affairs, but yeah, again, same language as was in VP of academic affairs with a little bit additional clarifying information about what the role will be and what it already is.
Great. Are there any questions, any concerns? You guys can just raise your hands and we can talk. Okay, seeing that nobody wants to talk on this, let's move into a vote on this.
Sorry,
Everyone,
on which, Mr. Chair?
on the Director of Academic Affairs, there was no hand raise.
We should finalize. We should return to the VP of Student Affairs striking. We haven't discussed that fully.
Do you mean VP of Academic Affairs or Student Affairs?
No, I mean,
did
we consider academic affairs? I'm confused at how this got out of sequence.
So basically what we are doing right now, at least in my mind, is that Vice President of Academic Affairs, which was struck down, and we created a Director of Academic Affairs. So we are considering both the things at once. So if if there are any concerns about that, anyone who is currently in the committee of the whole can speak. I'll just clear out the participants chat, and anyone who wants to speak can raise their hand now. Okay, Town Representative, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So just in short, it's really just like a transcribing of like the original language of vice president level responsibilities into the director's seat, and that's like essentially the sum of all the changes we're making to both of them.
Okay. Anyone else who wants to speak?
The answer to your question is yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Okay. Hearing all. If anyone wants to speak, they can do the hand raise. Seeing no hand raises, we'll move to an informal vote on this. So the vote will do two things. It will strike down the Vice President of Academic Affairs from the, which section is it again in parliamentary?
Subsection E?
Yeah.
E, they're mislabeled, but.
Okay, so basically it will strike down the Vice President of Academic Affairs and will also install a Director of Academic Affairs in the cabinet. And with that, I'll take the votes. Everyone in favor, do a yes. Everyone in favor. Oh, sorry, everyone against can do a no. I'm still waiting on one more person. I'm assuming that one of the representatives left. With that, the vote would be 34 to 0 to 1, and the amendment carries. Okay, great. Let's do the VP of Student Affairs now.
In tandem with the director?
Yes.
I assume as before? Okay, so this will then be the last change.
Okay. Kind of happy. Everything finishes by 7:55.
This is weird.
Yeah. After the last two, yes. But yeah, I'll just clear the participants chat. Mr. Parliamentarian, can you move to the Director of Student Affairs now? So that
Going back. Here we are.
Yeah, and to all the members, I apologize. It's just the online format is pretty slow for this. Okay, great. If there are any concerns or if anyone wishes to speak, they can do a hand raise. Okay. Seeing there are no hand raises, we'll move into a vote for this. Everyone in favor can do a yes. I'm still waiting on a few people. Three more people, unless a lot of them have left now. Okay, 32. Two more. Let me scroll down. Education rep, you haven't voted yet. Okay. And okay. With a vote of 34 to 1, the amendment carries. Okay, let's move to the next one. Is there a next one, Mr. Parliamentarian?
There is no next one.
Okay. I guess it's Maggie's turn to take us out of this, but Maggie, are you here?
Yeah. How do I do that?
Okay. I'll just do it. I'll just okay, I have to write the thing in Sanity. Never mind. It's just I will suggest the Cambridge Rep to do a motion to consider all the amendments made in the committee of the whole as a friendly amendment to yourself, and you are making all these amendments to the bill in the legislature.
All
So
right,
that's your.
so I motion to make all of these amendments that we just considered to the bill as a friendly amendment to me, from me, to the bill.
Hopefully that worked out. It's just, let's move to the legislature again.
So now we're out of the committee of the whole.
Yeah, we are out of the committee of the whole.
Okay.
And that leads me to mute everyone again. Never mind that. Okay. Is the body ready for the main question?
Yes.
Yeah. Seeing no objections. All in favor? Go ahead. Again, to remind, only the legislature can vote right now.
Are we allowed to abstain?
Yes.
You are allowed to abstain, yes.
Okay, I'm changing my vote.
Okay. So, with that, the bill passes with a vote of 32 to 0 to 2. Yay, finally done. Okay.
Thank you all
This
so
is
much.
really
That was amazing.
That was amazing, yes. We have no table bills. Yeah, follow up. Is there anyone who wants to follow up from their previous bills? Go ahead. Do a hand raise and I'll let you speak. Okay, seeing there are no follow-ups. Oh, okay. Okay, there's a follow-up from the business rep. Go ahead.
Just a quick follow-up on the first bill that I sponsored that was passed regarding the second Lieutenant Richard Collins, third law. Ended up passing the Maryland General Assembly. And if I'm not mistaken, the governor is going to sign it. And so I would like to thank everyone for their help, and I'm happy that we were able to help with the passage.
Okay, so I also see the BSOS rep has her hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone. I just wanted to do a bill follow-up regarding the bill last week, which was for basically just having the university like reconsider the current grading policy and resorting to support and I guess endorse or something the AA policy. So after the verdict with that, it was passed over to to Dean Cohen, where both the Director of Academic Affairs and the student body president both had discussion over the policy. And in addition, it was sent over to the provost, Marianne Rankin herself, where it was them and plus another dean getting together to make a verdict on whether to support. And with an inclination of what was provided in the letter that was sent back, it was not like immediately presumed to be unfavorable, but if you read in between the lines, then it kind of registered itself in that fashion. So now it's working on we're pondering different measures within being able to implement any further action as to what we can be able to do at this time. So I just kind of ask for everybody to stay patient regarding any potential changes or revisions that will be deemed as necessary in order to keep pushing forward and promoting a better grading policy. So that's it.
Okay. So are there any more follow-ups? I don't see a hand raised, so let's move to the executive updates. Student body president.
Hi, sorry. Let me scroll down to my own updates. I'm really not feeling well, so I'm just gonna ask you guys to please read my updates. I'm working on a few different things right now. We're supposed to get more guidance from the university about refunds of fees this week. So please just watch out for that. But please read my minutes. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Okay. Vice President of Academic Affairs.
Yeah, so I have a few things. Just really quickly. Would you guys be able to, I'm just gonna wait for you to pull it up because I don't have it up in front of me. But the first one I know has to do with like work study students and whether they're getting paid during this time. And there was some confusion between when I talked to admin and when I talked to financial aid director. So that's something I'm working on right now to just get that worked out and see if I can get a consistent answer between the two of them. And then beyond that, oh, for the spear.
Okay.
I know another one I have off the top of my head was that if you guys have any general questions that has to do with just academic related policies and stuff happening right now in general, reach out to me. I'm available anytime. And there's a third one, but I don't remember off the top of my head. So I can wait for this lady to pull it up. Or you guys can just look at my update.
Okay. We'll move to the update of VP of Student Affairs.
Hello, everyone. So my update's pretty brief. The first thing I have in there is a link, and that's a consolidated update from the different departments under the Division of Student Affairs and what they're doing. Some of them are outdated because this came out on the 26th of March. So like things like Res Life isn't updated, but the other ones are pretty standard. And then I'm also working or in a communication with some of the administrators who are looking to make adjustments to graduation for seniors. And they're looking for feedback on how to make a virtual commencement more engaging. And then if there's any other creative ideas on how to honor seniors, I talked about this in my committee. So if you want to reach out to me, just feel free to Slack or text me. That's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Are there any questions? Saying none, we'll just move to the next update. Director of Alumni Relations and Traditions, is Rachel here? Okay, I would suggest the legislature just goes through her update. They are on the agenda. Director
to give you an easier time, it looks like the only directors that are here are communications and SMP, and the city council liaison is on the call as well. But it looks like that's it from the executive branch.
Thanks so much. Love to see it.
Thank you, Madam President. Director of Communications. Okay. Talk about you. I'm hanging out. Hunter's here. Never mind. Director of Sexual Misconduct Prevention.
Hi, everybody. I hope that you're all doing well and taking care of yourselves. I just wanted to give a quick update. Today is the first day of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And even though we're all just doing things virtually, there's still a lot of things that you can do to participate. I sent a message in the Slack earlier with some ideas, but I just wanted to talk about a couple of them real quick. Please use this opportunity to educate yourself about some of the issues that you might not have had time to look into in the past. I listed a bunch of free webinars in the Slack that It's On Us is having. I'll be attending a lot of those, so I'll be sure to pass on any relevant information, especially from the one about how it's impacting Title IX. Please share available resources. You can take the pledge to recognize and prevent sexual misconduct at the link that is on the updates. We're posting, thank you, Jinwook, we're posting something on our Instagram story every day with a challenge that you can participate in. So some of the days like today was like, post like your thoughts and feelings about like Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Some of them are like take a picture of something. So try to participate in that. It's a really creative way to participate in some advocacy, start a conversation with your friends. Also, you can just use this time to practice some extra self-care and compassion. That is also a form of advocacy. So if that's something that you want to do, if you've been wanting to try something new, I would suggest that this is a good time and a good reason to do that. We are looking into hosting an online workshop later in the month. I know we were working on the Pride Works one before we were off campus. So if you have any thoughts or suggestions about that, please let us know. We are meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. and we're pretty much meeting weekly. Only other thing I would say unrelated to Sexual Assault Awareness Month is that the Title IX regulations that I've been talking about for a really long time passed the final step before they get enacted. So they could basically drop anytime. We don't really know when, but I am preparing for those to drop and trying to put together basically some thoughts so that we can have a reaction to that when it drops. So keep an eye out for that. Anyone have any questions? Okay, bye guys.
Anyone with a question can do it, doesn't have a mind. Yeah, liaison updates. Student liaison to the College Park City Council.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't have too much since the council doesn't meet on the 5th Tuesday of a month. So if there's a 5th Tuesday, they decide they take the week off. But basically, I've been working with our landlord still to figure out some sort of thing with emergency housing with off-campus students in particular. We were kind of talking about what it looks like now that there's a stay-at-home order and what does that mean. At the same time, I'm still trying to get in contact with the apartments to talk about rent deferment. Other than that, and there was supposed to be a thing with the census today with the Office of Community Engagement, a bunch of guest speakers, but unfortunately, Instagram Live had an issue when it was supposed to happen, and so it didn't happen. They're going to do it next week, but they're doing census-related things. And today's Census Day, so if you haven't yet, please fill out the census and get your friends to and mark yourselves in College Park because we get more funding that way. That's all.
Also, if you guys are at home, and I guess this is just like super brief,
Are you speaking in the?
It's related to the census. I can just put it in comments for the good of the council.
Yeah.
We're there now.
Oh, okay, perfect. So on the census, if you're at home, you've probably been sent a letter or like a postcard like 17,000 times by the Census Bureau. There's a type of formatting, I believe it's called non-ID formatting, where you can register yourself at the address you would have been on April 1st. And so that allows you to also mark yourself down in College Park, even if you're, say, filling it out from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or like anywhere that's not College Park, Maryland. But there will be more specific information when we push out the comm stuff.
Okay, are there any more comments for the good of the council?
God, I can unmute myself.
Yeah, comments, Rep. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, guys. Hope everyone's doing well. I just wanted to use this time to give a really quick South Campus Commons slash Courtyards update. I know my bill had passed last week, and the bill tonight has passed, which will help that communication continue to be flowing in the sufficient way possible. For now, I was on the phone with Commons a lot today, and I got some updated information about leases, same bed leases, and emergency housing. So I'm going to drop it in the Slack, but basically the high demand information I'm going to say now. That is all lease payments for all residents in South Campus Commons and Courtyards, whether it's a same bed lease or not, will not be responsible for paying anything between April and August. And that goes for whether your things are still there and you have yet to retrieve them from Commons or Courtyards, or even if like you've moved out already but have a same bed lease, you still won't be paying the months that we are not in school. So that's an update for that. In terms of same bed leases, where previously we were told that we have to move everything out and then come back in August. Now, if you have a same bed lease, you are allowed to keep everything in your room in Commons, which is awesome. And then finally for emergency housing, and I know this conversation is very much still happening, but students who have been granted emergency housing, while they will be paying rent for the room that they're staying in, there will not be an end date to their emergency housing, and they will be able to stay there for as long as they need. And the other update I got in terms of like finances for emergency housing is while that rent is still shifting, I guess, it will not be anything more than what their rent is in Commons now. So even though they're staying there for emergency housing, their rent will not go up in any way. But I have a lot of like consolidated links for communications between Commons and Courtyards and us, and I'll be dropping that in the Slack after the meeting. So if you have any other questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Great. The off-campus neighboring representative, David, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to say something briefly. I know that this is not how a lot of us envisioned, or any of us envisioned the year ending. It's not, for some of us, how we envisioned our college career ending. But I really just wanted to give a shout out to the legislators, the directors who have really made an effort to kind of, not let this stop them from keeping pushing on their initiatives and what initiatives they can moving online. I just want to say I really appreciate kind of all of you who really made an effort to kind of keep things going as much as possible. Just a brief note on that. That's all.
Okay, so yeah, that's all the comments for the good of the council. Are there any more? If there's, okay, never mind. We'll move into Ralph time now.
Ralph time.
David, take it away.
Working on it.
Alyssa. BSOS rep.
Hi guys. All right, so it's Ralph time. That's really exciting. I have her with me. She's been listening in probably for the past like 10-15 minutes or so, just chilling. But I sent over my Ralph time to you, the parliamentarian, so if you could share your screen with everybody.
Is it not currently shared?
It is.
It is shared.
It is, I think. Is it?
Yeah, can you see it? Can you see Rocket Ralph?
I don't see it. Oh, okay, I see it now.
It's there.
Okay, great. So sorry, that was my fault. That's all.
Amazing.
But okay, this is exciting. So Ralph had an interesting time within this past week because I was in the midst of moving out and then coming home. So I hope you guys like the edits. I tried my best. But okay, you can go to the next one.
Oh,
David, next one.
Working on it.
Oh.
It's not scroll. Oh, there we are.
Okay, great. So first was so we have the first day, and I call that pack up and pick up. So early this morning and late the night before, this was Sunday. This was Sunday morning and late like Saturday night. I was packing up to move out. And as I noted earlier, I'm a South Campus Commons resident, so I was just clearing out. If you look to the left, that is the beautiful business rep Hunter who had Ralph last week. So I went over to Charles Hall where he stays, and I just went over and grabbed Ralph from him. If you can tell, I'm being safe. I'm wearing gloves, as I should. And then the middle is just what my room looked like. Ralph was helping me out big time. And then to the right, you see the beautiful young woman, right with Ralph. That is my mom. And she just wanted to be a part of it. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that, but she looks great. So there we go. All right, next slide.
Yeah. We are.
Okay, so so this is also on the same day. This is the literal process within going from College Park to my hometown, which is Perryville, Maryland. It's in Cecil County. It is about an hour and 45 minutes away from College Park north. To help anybody, it's about 45 minutes north of Baltimore. So Ralph is just sitting there in the seat, just hanging out after a long time of helping me pack. And when we got back, helped me pack. Put away some of my things. And while in the meantime, that is the sign that's currently up in my laundry room, and Ralph just found it funny. So she's looking. So that's all I'm saying. Okay, next.
Got it. Yeah, please mute that.
Okay. So as we continue, so to the left is in my opinion the cutest boy in the world. That is my nephew Austin. He's 5. If you look closely, he's wearing his Spider-Man costume that my sister accidentally bought for an age that is not for him at the time. So he still likes wearing it. So he's growing into it, I'm sure. But the reason why this is relevant is, so if you look at the 3 pictures on the right, I asked my nephew, Austin, who Ralph was, and his response was very humorous. He said that Ralph was the dog from the Muppet Babies. And I was like, I don't know what a Muppet Baby is. So I actually went and like looked up myself, and I was like, oh, it's based on like Ralph from like the Muppets. Like, oh, and now there's a kids show for Muppets, and it's Muppet Babies. And I was like, okay, makes sense. So I had to let him know just for the springtime that Ralph is not not Ralph from the Muppets. So I don't know how he took that, but it's okay. Next slide. Okay, so I'll keep this short. But basically, within me being at home, I wanted Ralph to feel comfortable on her surroundings. So I showed her my family, and the best I could really be able to do, because some of them I actually can't return home at this time just due to like state restrictions. So they aren't able to literally be in my house, but Ralph still wanted to see them. So the best thing I can do were graduation pictures. And so the one all the way to my left, that is my twin brother, Danny. He is amazing, favorite person ever. And so why I have the little like Happy Autism Awareness Month underneath is because he is diagnosed with autism, as am I. And it's just a really nice month for being able to recognition, in case you all didn't know. So that's why I wanted to add that in there. And to the right are 3 of my sisters that I'm very close with as well. So. And so next, it's enjoying the view. I think this is the second day now. I'm actually unsure myself. I think so. Yeah, it's still the second day. Okay, so basically, my oldest sister, Danielle, she's an artist. So a lot of her artwork is arrayed in the basement, and so I wanted to have Ralph give a good look. Like it's basically a little art museum in our basement. So I wanted her to take a look at all of them. And underneath, there is a little so that's where my sister has all of her artwork. If you guys want to take a look at it, it's beautiful. It's really cool. And that's me being biased as ever, but it's fine. The thing in the middle is Ozark. We've just been watching that for the past 2 days. We've been obsessed with it. And Ralph likes it too. So next. Okay, day 3, funtivities. Keep going. Okay, so basically found out that Rolf was a baller. Had her, play some hoops with my nephew's little basketball thing, basketball net that he has. Also, he has, some motorcycle Spider-Man thing. So I just had Ralph take a good try at it, and it's pretty cool. Next. It's not time. You just so 2 other things. My house is it's pretty cool. And so basically I was just playing some games with Ralph. We have a air hockey table and a pool table. So Ralph was just having some fun and playing with me. So next. Is this almost done? I think it's almost done.
Whoa. I think this was next.
Yeah, it's fine. So basically, I wanted to make sure Ralph was safe because she needed a breather after being in the house for a little bit. So I put on a mask for her, and she was able to just kind of take a moment to breathe outside and embrace the view that's in front of her, all the trees and stuff, which is not anything familiar with College Park. So, and she enjoyed it, but she was only able to be out there for so long because I got a little paranoid. But fine. This is the little array that my nephew made. And basically she's been kind of just chilling up here for a while. This is considerably where she sleeps. She just really likes being up there. With all of the, I guess, associated heroes and Justice League, Marvel, or anyone else. And so, yeah, she really likes it there. Really is of her character. So keep going. Okay, so this is my own little note because I'm not exactly sure what I was supposed to do. I didn't know if I was supposed to still keep Ralph or anything or what or not. I don't know. But I just wanted to make the clarification that if Ralph does need a home, she has a home with me and by my family who welcomed her very much. So and we all have fun every day. So I just want to make that clear in regards to what any other future action was going to be taken from here on out. So keep going. Okay, so I guess if I have to give her over in whatever way as to how that would happen, because I don't even know. I chose this person because this person was very devout since day one. She has a lot of power, diligence, and self-determination in everything that she does. I feel like she's definitely a powerhouse in character, and she is going to be incredibly successful, not only, with her work now, but within the future. And I have no worry for her whatsoever, as much as I don't have any for any of you. But I want to give a lot of recognition for her work and for her character because she's an incredibly beautiful person inside out. And so with that, further ado, do a little drum roll, which is the next slide. It's the next slide. So the person that I chose was Alex. So I don't know how you're gonna get it, Alex, but
thanks.
We'll figure it out. That's all I'm saying. And you deserve it. So
thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I would take any motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'm not hearing the motion, so sorry.
Second.
We're not gonna adjourn now. Just
You're kidding me.
kidding. Second. Hence adjourn.
Bye. Okay.
So confused.